Once you've prioritized effectively and know what you're going to do, you then need to figure out when you're going to do these key things. So today I'm going to go through 5 different techniques or frameworks to help you do just that. And the first is the Eisenhower Matrix, which is probably one of, if not the best productivity tool I've ever come across. It's a classic for a reason. I use it every week when planning to help me focus on what really matters. General Eisenhower was famous for saying, "What's important is seldom urgent, and what's urgent is seldom important." Stephen Covey then took this idea and developed it into a matrix in his great book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And what this matrix does is helps you split your time into 4 different quadrants. And the axes are importance and urgence. So the first quadrant, Q1, is for things which are important and urgent. This is things like emergencies, crises, tight deadlines. There's a fire in the building or something. It's important and it's urgent, you've got to deal with it now. So it's pretty simple, and normally we find it quite easy to deal with these now. We find it pretty easy to prioritize these, but in the long term, what you want to do is effectively manage your time and your planning so these things don't really build up to this point where they become really urgent, i.e. you don't always leave your deadlines right to the very last minute. Now, the second quadrant, and this is the crucial one, is for things which are important but not urgent. Now, this is where the magic really happens. These activities compound to really create absolute value in your life. These are things like personal development, relationship building, planning, passions and hobbies, exercising, all the things which you know are important to do, but which you never have to do today or right now. And because you never have to do them, it's easy for them to be deprioritized. But at the end of the day, week, month or year, whenever you do reflection, when people look back at how they spent their time, more often than not, they say they would have liked to have spent more time doing these Q2 activities. The key for these activities is therefore to schedule them in and make time for them so they don't get constantly deprioritized compared to urgent tasks, whether those urgent tasks are really important or not so important. And this brings us on to the third quartile, which is tasks that are urgent but not important. Now, this is the danger zone because it's easy for these tasks to seem important just because of their urgency. And these are things like app notifications, emails, random interruptions, or unnecessary things that crop up. And some key actions here to protect your time are to turn off notifications and emails from unimportant things, from unimportant apps, from subscriptions that you don't really need. To delegate or automate tasks where possible to buy back some of your time. And then to batch process some of these tasks like replying to emails or going through notifications in times when you're less productive, which is something I'll come on to later on in this video. And the fourth and final quadrant is things that are not important and not urgent. And these are things that are basically time wasters, and you want to reduce the amount of time you spend on these things as much as possible. And this will vary for different people, but for a lot of people it's things like doom scrolling, maybe gossiping, maybe watching certain TV that doesn't add much value to their life and so on. And the goal here is to eliminate the time we spend here. And often what a lot of this planning is really just around how can we spend less time in quadrant 3 and 4 and more time in quadrant 2. And this brings us nicely on to the second of those key techniques and frameworks. Now, the first step is just to notice and identify when you tend to spend time doing those urgent but not important tasks, or those not important and not urgent tasks, things like doom scrolling. And then you need to find actions to replace them. Because the thing is, you're always doing something. If I were to watch you, or there were a drone watching you, it feels kind of Big Brother, but imagine there's something always watching you. You're always doing something, whether you're sat on your phone doom scrolling or cooking or showering or working or reading or whatever, you're always doing something. So if you want to spend more time doing certain things in your life or start new things, you need to swap that time for something you were doing previously. And the best way to do this is to make another little matrix on the left-hand side where you put actions that you want to stop doing or do less of, and then next to each of those, just put off the top of your head how many hours you spend per week doing them and roughly when you do them. And then you make another column, which is the actions that you want to start doing or do more of. And that's where you put how long you want to spend doing them. And then you can start identifying what swaps you might make. It then becomes pretty easy. If you say you want to, learn to play a bit guitar, when do you want to do that? Well, you can swap it for something you want to do less of. For example, doom scrolling. When you doom scroll, maybe it's after dinner, cool. That's your guitar learning time. So this is how you identify what you want to do and when you want to do them. But now we get to a challenge of how long are you going to spend doing some of these tasks? And you might have struggled with this before if, like most people, you have struggled with packing. See, have you ever noticed that packing tends to take as long as you allow it? If you've got 30 minutes to pack before a holiday or a trip or something, you'll pack in 30 minutes. But if you've got 3 or 4 hours or half a day or a whole day to pack, it can end up taking as long as you literally allow it. Now, this phenomenon is known as Parkinson's law, which states that work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. And that's why this third framework is so important, and it's around time boxing. And what this says is, it's so key not just to identify when you're going to start a task, but also when you're going to finish it, and therefore how long that's going to take. So when you have a task in mind, don't just outline when you're going to start, but also when you're going to finish, and therefore how long you want to spend doing that task. And this is another reason why I find it so effective to move my to-do list as quickly as possible from a short list and notes to my calendar, because then you can vary the length of time for the different tasks. Now, there is another law, which is kind of tongue-in-cheek, called Hofstadter's law, which states that tasks always take longer than you think, even when you take into account Hofstadter's law. Basically saying that you never know what's going to crop up, things take longer than you think, which often can be true. And so to account for this and kind of get a good balance between Parkinson's law and Hofstadter's law, what I like to do is, for new tasks, allocate a 1.5x time buffer. And basically just say, okay, if I think it's going to take an hour, I'll allow 90 minutes for it. Then over time, what you can do is start to get better at your estimations of how long things are going to take, and therefore constrain the amount of time you allocate to it. But to kick off, under promise and over deliver. So assume things are going to take longer and see how you get on. But over time, you do want to improve that skill. And this brings us on to the fourth framework, which follows something that the police do when they're checking alibis, believe it or not. I remember chatting to one of my clients who said they plan their evenings like this. They say, right, I'm going to get home from work at, 7 p.m. and then I'm going to tidy the flat and my room, and then I'm going to bulk cook for like a whole week. Then I'm going to call all of my close family members. Then I'm going to journal. Then I'm going to, read. Then I'm going to practice guitar, and then I'll be in bed by 9 p.m. And see, when we're thinking forwards, often what we do is we basically are overly ambitious. And this is because as we're planning forwards and we're thinking forwards, we overestimate how much we can do in a given time. Now, if that sounds familiar, to make your estimations more accurate, start planning backwards. And the reason why I reference the police is because this is how they check for alibis. If they said to a suspect, all right, from the start of your day, tell us what happened. It's very easy to tell a story or make up a lie. But when you ask someone to tell a story in reverse, it gets a lot harder. It essentially increases the cognitive load, making it harder to lie and come up with a coherent story. So use this for yourself to make your estimations more accurate. And you can apply this when planning your day or even your life. And the chances are you already do it a little bit. For example, let's say you need to be at work at 9 a.m. What you'll probably have done is thought through the commute and said, okay, well, to get there for this time, I need to get this train or bus or drive at this time. And that therefore means I need to leave at this time. So let's say I need to be there at 9, maybe you need to leave at 8 a.m. To leave at 8 a.m, that might mean you need to shower or start having your breakfast at 7:30 or whatever, and then that means you need to wake up at whatever time it is, 7, 6:30, whatever. And you've then set an alarm to ensure that happens. So you've kind of already done it. But what happens is there's normally a point where we stop, or there's a new activity or event, for example, a weekend, a plan, and if you don't apply that same metric, it can be easy to overrun. And normally people stop in the morning, and that often means that they don't quite get as much sleep as they like. So you can continue that and say, all right, well, if I'm getting up at 6 a.m. or whatever it is, and if you want 8 hours sleep, well, that means you need to be in bed at 10 p.m, which means you might need to get ready for bed at 9:30 and so on. And you can take a step back and apply this to your life more generally. Let's say you have certain milestones you want to hit. For example, you want to have children at a certain age. That might mean you want to start trying for a baby at a certain time. That might mean you want, and so on and so forth. And suddenly you get to a pretty clear idea of when you actually want to start doing things. And this can be quite startling at first, because sometimes it makes us realize we should have started yesterday. But managing these expectations can be really important for helping you prioritize effectively, and if needed, get the ball rolling a lot quicker than you would have done otherwise. So we've spoken through the Eisenhower Matrix and making time replacements. We've spoken through time boxing, and we've spoken through the police method to work backwards and ensure that you actually time box effectively. And now this final framework is going to help you identify when to do certain types of tasks. You see, if we're constantly switching between very different tasks, we get what's known as an attention residue, essentially a lag, where it takes a bit of time to kind of warm up and get up to speed with things and then make a bit of progress, and then we might need to switch again. So often what's most effective is to have certain periods of the day or certain times when you do certain types of tasks, and that will vary by person and by task. And this theory comes from a great book called Deep Work by Cal Newport, where he splits out tasks into deep work and shallow work. Now, deep work tasks are cognitively demanding tasks. These are the real needle movers. And then you've got shallow work tasks, which are not cognitively demanding. Things like admin or logistics, maybe replying to emails or ticking off things, things that don't really require a lot of brain power. And so to prioritize the tasks you do in optimal times, the first step is just to identify when you tend to work best. For some people, they might say they're a night owl. For other people, it's the early morning. Identify when you tend to get into flow state, as it's known, a bit more easily. And for many people, including myself, it is often in the morning, but it might be different. In any case, once you've identified this, you can then block out a deep work time in your calendar. And this is going to be when you essentially do your key needle moving tasks. During these times, you want to make it as easy as possible to focus on the key task and not keep switching your attention between different things. And this might mean minimizing interruptions, turning off notifications. For many people, it means going to an environment where they can really focus. That might be a cafe or a library, or perhaps it's just standing up at your desk or something. Once you've then scheduled that time, you can separate your tasks into deep work and shallow work. The deep work tasks you do during these optimal times for yourself, and then in a given day, and this is how it ties nicely into that fixed volume productivity I've spoken about in another video, you then schedule in, let's say, one key task for that block in your deep work time. Then with shallow work tasks, you can fill these in less optimal times. Now, I like to do these when commuting or traveling, or when I get, a little bit less energy. This might be after eating or in the evening. And what can be quite good is to batch process some of these less cognitively demanding tasks, like replying to emails and messages and so on. So hopefully those different techniques and frameworks were helpful for helping you understand when to do certain key tasks. And the final thought I'd leave you with is a little mindset shift, which really made a massive difference for me. And that was to stop saying, I don't have time for something, and start saying, I'm not prioritizing it. What this does, it basically holds up a mirror and helps you become really honest with yourself about whether you actually want to do something or whether you're prioritizing it. Because for certain things you might say, hey, yeah, I'd love to, learn another language, but right now I'm not prioritizing it. Yeah, that hasn't happened. So yeah, I don't say I don't have time to learn this other language. I say I'm not prioritizing it right now. But for other things, say like exercise, often it is those Q2 activities. If you say, actually, rather than I don't have time for it, I'm just not prioritizing focusing on my health or reaching out to that person or building this relationship or whatever, suddenly if there's a bit of cognitive dissonance, that shows you've got to change your actions. And you can use those different techniques to make time for what really matters to you. I hope that was useful, and if you've got any questions, just reach out.